to a professor who has made a very big sensation through his book called Caste as a Social Capital. When the book was published, it created a big sensation, and now Professor R.Vaidyanathan is being invited to different forums to talk about this new idea of caste as a social capital. Professor R. Vaidyanathan is retired professor of finance at IIM Bangalore, a graduate of Loyola College Madras and a master's from the Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata. He obtained his doctorate from the Indian Institute of Management, Kolkata, where he also taught for 4 years. He is 2 times Fulbright Scholar and a Fellow of ICSSR, visiting faculty at various universities in USA, UK. He has been selected by Business Today as one of the 10 best professors at all IIMs. He has the rare privilege of being in various committees of regulators like SEBI, RBI, IRDA, PFRDA. He is consultant to many organizations and is on the board of many corporates. He has been conferred Life Contribution Award by Asia Pacific Risk Insurance Association and Kaibo Life in 2019. His book, India Unique, a role of non-corporate sectors in India, which focus on Indian Asian value systems, has been well received by planners and policymakers. His other book on black money and tax havens has been acclaimed by experts. His recent book, Caste as a Social Capital, has been well received by the market. He is on the advisory council of Vivekananda International Foundation. He is a member of National Security Advisor Board and the National Security Council. Currently, he is a Cho Ramaswamy Chair Professor in Public Policy at Shastra University, Tanjore, Tamil Nadu, and Emeritus Adjunct Professor of Rashtriya Raksha University, an institution of national importance at Ahmedabad. Professor R. Vaidyanathan, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Nagaraj, for that kind introduction. Actually, I should be completing my talk by now. Anyhow, I am starting it. I would like to, keep it within the time frame, maybe 20-30 minutes. So my talk is, around this book, Caste as Social Capital, which was published in 2014. The Westland, who were the publisher of the book, unfortunately got closed. Not because publishing my book, independent of that, they got closed. Now Penguin is bringing a new edition around July. You will be getting it revised with more contemporary data and other things. That's a brief thing. Now, so much, my earlier speakers have analyzed and gave an excellent exposition of, the issue of Jaati, Varna, and as well as how it is related to Dharma and other things. I'm not going to go into any of those things. I'm going to take caste as what we all know in India today as by birth. And then I have argued in the book that it's one of the major engines of our economic growth. Without the caste and caste formation, we might not have achieved this level of economic growth in our country. One or two quick points. Sardar Vallabh Patel merged something like 561 samasthanas in India. You will be surprised, or you may be knowing it. Almost all of them were ruled by SC, ST or OBCs. 20% by SC, STs, remaining all by OBCs. As my colleague used to jokingly say at Atlanta, India is the only country where the erstwhile rulers are now enjoying reservation benefit, not in any other part. Anyhow, that was Patel's thing. And one important point many people forget is we didn't have any idea of slavery in our civilization. It was not one of the points compared to Islamic civilization as well as that of the white man. We never had any slavery. And of course, it is told that 1500 years there is oppression and 2000 years. I was always puzzled because if 2000 years there has been oppression and suppression, there should have been large number of caste wars in India, actually. One caste fighting the other caste, and like in Europe, for instance, every 25, 30 years, there were severe amount of wars between different tribes and clans and other. Including my Marxist professors, they could not identify any caste wars. This is something very puzzling, that for 2000 years, people were oppressed and there were no type of rebellion or no type of war or anything. This whole thing is funny. The hierarchy of caste was established in 1881 only. Before that, I could not at least locate. I have done a lot of studies in this, research in this, of hierarchy in the sense 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D. You know, many people mentioned about Kshatriya, Brahmin, Kshatriyas, and this hierarchy was introduced in 1881 census by the British. And much later in 91 census, they explained why did they introduce. They wanted to have a mirror image of the British society. British society had in those days ICS or then other type of officials, clerical cadre and peon cadre. 4 type of categories were there. So they thought in India also they should have a neat category of 4 types. And kindly note, I am not telling caste didn't exist before this. Caste did exist, but this ranking or this hierarchy was created. And they were not very happy because they collected in first census only 1920 caste and in 1881 census. And, and of them, you know, roughly 1100 were less than 1000. So they were very unhappy actually that what is this? We are not able to have a mapping of the population of the country. And so in the next census, they gave the enumerators the right to put somebody's caste. This is the first time in world history, I can tell you, that the census enumerators are given the powers to decide who should be put into what. If a person is having a mush and he is slightly FT, he was considered as a Kshatriya. If a person is having a tuft, he was immediately considered as a Brahmin. Like this, you know, they created these categories. And even then, there was a huge number of caste actually, large number of caste. So what I call the differentiation. And much later in the post-independence period, we have integration of caste. Like we use, as an example, there are 403 subcaste of Jaats. And now all of them are called Jaats. In Tamil Nadu, there are 3 major subcaste of a caste created recently called Tevar. It is Agamudayar, Maravar and Kalar. But suddenly they have all become the Tevar. These are political creation, aggregation I call it actually. Anyhow, 1931 was the last caste census conducted in India, based upon which this entire Mandal reservation was formed. 1941, we didn't have any census due to Second World War. 1951, Nehru decided that we are a casteless society, so that column in the census table was removed. So, you know, so there is no, so all discussion about the population based on caste is based, if at all, 1931 census only. All other data is all what they call POTA data, pulled out of thin air. You know, in a TV discussion, somebody told, oh, in this constituency, there are so many Yadavs. And much later, I asked him outside, what is this? How did you know? He told, no, sir, the anchor is Yadav, so I didn't want to, you know. So all the talk about all, you know, just exaggerated and attempts were made. 2011, there was a demand to have a caste, and that time the census commissioner Chandramouli mentioned that no, it would not be easy. The reason is different people understand differently about what is their caste. This is the basic thing. But it was considered as a socio-economic survey. P. Chidambaram was the Home Minister. So the collecting data comes under them. he allowed for the socio-economic survey, and they ended up with, believe me, something like 330 million households. That itself is a puzzle, with 4.6 million entries. That means 72 households per caste. This is chaotic actually, because to what caste you belong, if you ask a person, it's not going to talk in terms of the modern media or newspaper or anything. He will go into the sub caste of his thing, and then he will mention that only. Anyhow, this was all handed over to Niti Ayog in the center to sort of clean up the data, because 65,000 entries were not clear. There are some NAIK, NAYAK, NAYK, hundreds of these type of entries are there. So Niti Ayog is, of course, looking at it when you know what it means by looking at an issue. It's roughly nearly, this was 2011, we are now in 2023. There is again a demand for caste census, without knowing that the individual perception of caste is totally different than what is written in newspapers and talked about in TV studios. There was one, Karnataka has been a good state in the sense, as an example. They have done a lot of socio-economic census. 2017, they did an exhaustive study of all the caste in Karnataka. And that has not been released. That is kept in the cold storage, coldest possible storage. Because the common feeling is Linkayat and Okkaligas are the dominant groups in Karnataka. But according to leaked data, it seems that they are not actually. They are less than, Linkayat constitute not 19%, but they only make something like 12%. Okkaligas make less than 10%. Anyhow, the Muslims scheduled caste account for 20%. And Muslims account for another 17%. So this is a type of a leaked data, and then the government decided that we are looking into it, and so it was never released. And every opposition demands it should be released, and nobody wants to release it. It's like a hot potato. Basically, after 1931, we don't have any proper caste enumeration, and each caste, subcaste, subcaste has got its own sampradayas pertaining to Namakarna, birth, Mundakam, betrothal, marriage, food habits, method of preparation of food, dress habits, hundreds of things are associated. What basically you can call in terms of a sampradaya. But we have economic census done in 398, 2005, 2013. The NSS has done exhaustive 30.4 million. The households were covered, basically having certain amount of enterprises in terms of own account enterprise, or in terms of own account is without any hiring any labor. And I'm not getting into all the technicalities. 30 million. In 2005, it was 42 million. 2013, 58 million. Recently, there are some, it has not yet been released. It could be 70 million. Anyhow, 45% in 1998 were owned by SC, ST and OBC. 51% in 05 and 58% in 2013. And now it is suggested it could be as high as 70%. SC, ST and OBC. Some of you might know there is a SC Chamber of Commerce, which is invited by the finance minister for discussion and other things. So what we are basically telling is, huge amount of Vaishyavisation of India is taking place. Everybody is becoming what you may loosely call Vaishya. And it's not a bad thing, because government should be doing only the Kshatriya job, not that of the Vaishya job. Anyhow, so almost all of the people are becoming Vaishyas in our country. And there is a book by Harish Damodaran, If you have time and inclination, you must buy and read it. He is the grandson of E.M.S. Nambudripad about modern capitalist. How different type of areas people are coming into the market or into what you call the stock market and other, and what type of changes they are bringing about. And so he categorizes into three major categories. One category is in terms of the office to factory. That is all our modern IT BT people. Koramangala as a pin code, you may call it. So huge number actually. And 100 billion is their export from India. Another category is very, very traditional. Trade to industry, which is your Bankur, Tapar and Birla Tatas and everything. And what is happening? Birla Tata and other thing. And the third pathway is field to factory. That is the very interesting modern. There were Marathas, Patidars, Kamas, Velamas, and Reddy Garus, Ramgarias. So many of these groups have become what you may loosely call industrialist. So this is how he tries to explain it in terms of the categories. I got interest in this when I visited Coimbatore, because it was a drought-prone area and agriculture area, and the founders there are extremely cooperative and providing finances between themselves, and they have made it into a major textile hub in the whole world actually. Their export last count was more than 15,000 crores. And there are individual entrepreneurs there. Of course, all of them mostly less than 10th standard. Many of them will be, sort of 8th fail, 9th pass and that type of thing, like our political leaders. But they are extremely good in terms of business and commerce. And they have done remarkably well. So this gave me a incentive. And when I went to US, I found in the West Coast, almost all the motels are owned by Patels. They are called actually Patels nowadays, not even motels. Small inns where, the family runs the show, and the rooms are breakfast and bed and breakfast, basically with, with one cot, one, what one can call your, this ceiling fan and or your air conditioner, and common area you have the television and other. And these have phenomenally grown in the west coast of US, and most of it is owned by what you may loosely call the Patels. And another thing, I was visiting a place called what you may loosely call the in Amsterdam, near Amsterdam, which is the one of the major what one can call diamond centers. No, I didn't go there to buy diamond. I just went for some other seminar. In the ground floor, when I came down, I saw one board called Jain Mills. I was puzzled. I have seen veg, non-veg type of boards and sometimes halal and but this Jain is. So I checked with the manager, what is this? He says most of my clients are Jains. Then I began to inquire and found out Palanpur Jains, who are very, very small, microscopic minority in India. They control significant portion of the diamond trade there. To that, I am talking about the 90s. To that extent, once Wall Street Journal wrote, this is the first time Jews have been defeated in business without violence. This is something very, very interesting. There, again, huge amount of advantage in terms of a community, lending, borrowing, risk assessment, new market penetration, as well as in terms of labor requirement. So many things are plus points in terms of the cost units. The raw diamond is imported from Russia or from South Africa in Surat, and then it is polished another thing, and then it's sent back to for sales. This is the type of a business. And again, when I came to Tamil Nadu, I saw the Sivakasi. In the 30s, some Nadars were having a major issue of drought. So 2 or 3 of them went to Calcutta. In those days, Calcutta used to be the magnet for attracting people from drought-hit areas, not Bombay. Calcutta was the major commercial center. They got employed in Wimco and learned something about matches making. They came back to Sivakasi and with financing by one of the other Nadars in Trichy, they started a small level matches making industry. And it has grown such a huge one. They are now something like 80% of the matches in India is by them. They went into diversified into these crackers, and then crackers required a lot of paper, so they went into printing. They are one of the finest printing art, to the extent when Obama wanted to give a gift to his close friends, something like 500, 600, not official. The diaries in that time was brought from Sivakasi. It's not very highly advertised or known or anything like that. It's such a excellent type of a print technology they have developed. And then I visited Surat, I visited various Ramgarhias. I went to something like 35, 40 centers all over the country. All the economic clusters, I can assure you, sir, are caste clusters. And the government, none of their reports till late 80s talked about this. They made it appear as if these are all, sprung up on its own. No. And only in the 80s, when they were preparing a report on leather industry, they talked about the role of Muslims in leather industry in both Agra as well as in Ambur in Tamil Nadu. Till then, there was no mention of any community or caste or anything like that. It's something very, very peculiar, and not very peculiar to us, because we have uncanny knack of denigrating our positive things and our plus things, and then focusing on immaterial and inconsequential things. Almost all the reports of Planning Commission and various agencies till the 80s never talked about caste. World Bank in 2002, they brought out World Development Report. 2 pages they spent on this Coimbatore Gounders and how they helped each other and how the entire thing developed. And, obviously when a white man says something, we are very, immediately very happy about it. And then because, we are, genetically tied to the white. Then there was some discussion, and then there are some articles and other things, how caste played. And caste has always played a very major and positive role in terms of economic development. Caste in politics divides. Caste in business unites. This is something which we should keep in the back of the mind. When you are in business, you have all type of people who are material suppliers to you, who are the market also to you. So it's not something which you would like to lose or you would like to. So this is what is. So there has been an enormous amount of efforts which have taken place, and some of you who are more interested can buy my book. It is getting released by July, the revised edition, right? That I always say, you buy my book, you need not read it. That's not my headache. Okay, buying is enough for me. Okay, so this is the type of development which is taking place, and wherever there is a caste consolidation in business, and that has given rise to very, very positive economic cluster. So we have something like 800 clusters as per UN, but more than 13 to 1400 clusters in this country. And all the clusters are caste clusters. And all of them are engines of our economic growth. Whenever we talk about economic growth, we talk about the census or, what is that called? Nifty and share market. The listed companies in the share market may not have more than 5 to 6% of the GDP. What I am telling, these cluster areas, they have more than 50% of our GDP. And they are really our, what one can call, major engines of growth. Anyhow, I should close this so that I don't exceed already I have exceeded. Swami Vivekananda says, when he came back from, some of you would recall that 1893 gave that famous lecture, and then incidentally, he was funded by a group of Chettiars from Madras to go to, they were also a business group. He came back, and then that time he was felicitated. And again, unfortunately, once a white man recognizes, then he becomes a hero in our country. Till then also he was a major, but he was not so much known. So he had a lecture tour from what is called Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka was also part of the Greater India that time, up to Almora. So Jaffna to Almora. And he says in Jaffna in 1897 in the talk, the older I grow, the better I seem to think of these caste and such other time-honored institutions of India. There was a time when I used to think that many of them were useless and worthless. But older I grow, he says older, he was hardly 37, 36 that time. Older I grow, the more I seem to feel diffidence in cursing any one of them. Each one of them is the embodiment of the experience of centuries. Incidentally, when I was teaching at IIM, I used to offer a course on this issue. Anyhow, one of the assignment was to my boys to buy a bulb, electric bulb, in South Bangalore from a shop not owned by a Rajasthani Mewari. Very important. You should buy the bulb from any shop, but should not be owned by a Rajasthani. Most of my students used to fail the task actually. The point is, it's a good network in terms of sourcing of material, in terms of identifying. I asked some of them, why are you not expanding? Why are you not having multiple shops and other things? No, sir, our relatives are coming, and Bangalore, many of you may know that is expanding very fast on the Mysore side and various sides. They say they will take care of it. Same thing about Muslim. According to, if you read my book, you will know Muslims also, I treat them as another caste. Christians also another caste. They have several subcaste and other things. They bring labor, the retail trader, provision trader, Muslims, they bring labor from their own place, from Kerala, and then they actually train them. And this Satyarthi and others who is supposed to have liberated 72,421.6 UP laborers, all big frauds, according to me. He has not shown even 1,000 people. He has got Nobel Prize, and I think he is settled in US. Anyhow, it's all right. By and large, in our country, if you are a big fraud, you thrive. If you are a genuine researcher or something, you give some talk in some university, and that's all. Why I am telling is, the so-called child labor is actually a training place for labor. Many of these Muslim shop people, I know personally, those who are working, they go and put up another shop after a couple of years, after learning the tricks of the trade. Same thing about hotel industry, where of course now you have huge number of influx from other part of the country, northeast, Bangladesh even, and maybe Burma also, one doesn't know, who come to various towns in south to act as laborers in this hotel industry and retail industry and other things. Earlier, it used to be mostly people from northern part of Karnataka who come in the construction industry and other things, gain some tricks of the trade, and then they set up their own activities. The point I want to stress is, caste is an extremely important institution. I'm not going into the background and the difference between this Jaati and all past thing. Because India, according to me, is the only country in the whole world where past has to be forecast. Every other country, future is forecast. In India, past has to be estimated, because if you say X thing about a past event, there will be several people telling why is that and other thing. I was, as a student of Sanskrit, I'll give you an example. We used to have a major question on the date of Kalidasa. It's a question paper BSc where we have to write some 4 pages, 5 pages. It varies from first century AD to 16th century AD. Different fellows have to be quoted, another thing. Same thing about date of Adi Shankara. And even a very recent one about Rabindranath Tagore, there is a big debate going on. What is his date? And communist parties are fighting. CPI is telling we founded in 1925. CPM is telling 1920. 2 major parties. So for us, we measure time in Kal, in terms of Yuga. Broadly, Kali Yuga has it taken place. Broadly, has it taken place in Treta Yuga, like that should settle our issue, instead of trying to focus on particular Gregorian calendar and other. Anyhow, so that is the past has to be forecast. That is, so that's a task I will not like to venture in our context. Future, everywhere in the world, future is forecast. That they do it with all the econometric modeling and other thing. Not that they succeed, but they do. So, important point I want to stress is caste is a very major social capital and engine for our economic growth. Let us celebrate caste, and let us try to, now of course some castes have done much better in terms of, in the functioning of the economy. Reddy Garus and Kamas have done enormously well, actually. Somebody told Chandigarh was built by Corbusier, which is not true. Chandigarh was actually built by Telugus. Not many people are. While I was moving around there, I saw several places in the camps people talking Telugus and other. So this is something very, very important. We should celebrate it, if you ask me, the idea of caste. And caste unites in business, and caste divides in politics. So this is what, July you will get my revised portion of my book. Thank you very much. Hope I have not significantly exceeded.
Thank you very much, Professor Vaidyanathan. There are not only comments of applause from the audience, even from the co-panelists, there are words of applause for you. Everyone
I can also give here, my Gmail is R.Vaidya 2000 at gmail.com. So if anyone is more interested, they can send me the Gmail. I would definitely respond to each one of those Gmails, right? Because of the time element, right?
Wonderful, wonderful, Professor Vaidyanathan.
That's the only reason. Our Ishwaran is already there from Kungunadu, and Kungunadu is going to become a separate union territory or a separate state from Tamil Nadu. Welcome that. Okay. Thank you all. Kindly send to R.Vaidya 2000. Very sorry I could not respond to each one of you. You send, you would get a response. You may not be very happy about the response, but you will get the response. I'm very sure about it. Right? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor.